So welcome to episode 5 of Everything Wrong with Power Rangers, a series where I analyse the plot holes and just insane editing errors in each episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now those of you who aren't huge fans of the show might not know that a huge percentage of each episode was just scenes taken directly from a Japanese counterpart. Now what the English version of the show usually did was just film scenes to put in between all the fight scenes that they took from the Japanese show to try and make a coherent story. They usually did quite a bad job of it. Anyway, let's get started with episode 5, which is called A Different Drum. So the episode begins with Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, teaching an aerobics class, which Billy is taking, and he's hilariously bad. It's kind of a running joke in the show that Billy's really bad at like dancing and climbing and fighting, and it's like, should he be a Power Ranger? Anyway, we find out that Kimberly has a deaf friend and she's quite upset because she thinks she's a bad dancer, and Kimberly consoles her. Then it cuts to Rita Repulsa on her moon base. She's kind of been spying on the Rangers doing their dance class, and she gets the idea that, well, if they like music, I'm gonna make a crazy music themed hypnotism monster. Now it's weird that Rita always just watches them and then sends down a monster periodically based on the troubles or their interests of that week. It's especially weird considering that she could just send down like 150-foot monsters in the middle of the night to kill him in their sleep. This is actually addressed in the episode. A couple of scenes later, when she asks Finster to make her this weird music monster thing, he says this:
"Oh my queen, that idea is absolute brilliance. However, musical monsters aren't very reliable. Wouldn't you rather have a nice fire-breathing hedgehog instead?" No! Oh, that idea, that.
So even he is like, dude, I can just burn him alive right now. She's like, no, we're doing this weird music plan that I have. He's okay, whatever. So this might not be a writing problem so much as it is an actual canon problem in the show that Rita is quite a bad leader. So anyway, they send down the weird leprechaun monster who hypnotizes a bunch of girls from the aerobics class with the plan that when the Rangers come to save them, they're gonna ambush them. But guess what? That hypnotism music stuff doesn't work on Melissa, Kimberly's deaf friend from earlier. She actually follows the group to a cave. I do have some issues with this weird rope net thing. First of all, it makes a metal gate sound. Also, where the hell did it come from? When they were walking in, it wasn't there, and then suddenly it just drops down on her and it has all the correct fastenings above the cave door. It could be magic, to be fair, because she is following a leprechaun. Magic is not out of the question. It's probably magic. Anyway, Melissa runs back to get some help, and it cuts back to the cave where we see that the monsters are all kind of just having a party while they're waiting for the Rangers to arrive. Now, do you remember earlier when I talked about all the weird continuity errors that happen when they try and connect the Japanese scenes and the English scenes? This is where they begin in this episode. So the Japanese putties have belts, but the English versions of the costume for some reason don't have belts, so the putties' belts just keep randomly appearing and disappearing. That's kind of a minor issue, but another really weird thing happens in the cave. Now the bad guy in this episode has a completely different backstory in the Japanese version of the show, where most of his scenes are taken from. See, in that show he liked to eat children's souls, and he was actually invisible to adults unless you could trick him into putting his shoes on the wrong feet. Now that's strange enough in its own right, but what's even stranger is they leave a lot of these weird shoe related scenes in the English episode. So there's this bit where he falls asleep and then he's sitting there and then it zooms in on his shoes, then he wakes up and he's freaking out about his shoes and he runs around and he's invisible, then it cuts to him trying to put his shoes on and he's flipping out because he doesn't know how to tie them, and it makes no sense because the whole I'm invisible to adults if my shoes are on the right feet thing isn't a part of his story in the English episode. So instead what we get is just a bunch of random shoe stuff happening right in the middle of an episode not related to shoes. So you're like, what is going on with this guy's shoes? Why is he flipping out? What's going on here? Anyway, moving on. The Power Rangers arrive and they decide to morph, and then suddenly they're in a quarry. This actually happens a fair bit. Obviously when the Rangers morph, it's a transition from the English film scenes to the Japanese film scenes, but the English version never really gives any explanation as to why they always suddenly just are in a quarry. Also in this morphing scene, there's one bit where the Pink Ranger is just grey, and I guess that's just a color correction thing. Anyway, they start fighting the gnome and they're using their weapons. They decide to combine all their weapons, and then for some reason they call them by the wrong names.
Cosmic cannon!
So for example, the Black Ranger just called his power axe a cosmic cannon. He's never called it that before, and I'm pretty sure he never calls it that again. It's always the power axe. Why did he say that? This is a weird mistake because it's just a simple English dub over. It's not like a problem with the Japanese. They just could have put anything they wanted there. But why did they record the wrong name? Is it a licensing thing? I don't know. There's probably people watching that are bigger fans of Power Rangers than me. If you know why this happened, let me know in the comments. I cannot figure it out. Anyway, they kill the monster, but then Rita sees it, gets upset, brings him back to life and makes him grow massive. So of course the Rangers summon the Megazord and they fight him. Now he tries to use that music stuff to kind of confuse them, and he kind of turns invisible, also turns into a rock. Anyway, it doesn't work. They sword him to death. Then we see everyone hanging out back at Angel Grove, and it turns out Melissa has actually taught Billy to dance. Great ending. So that's the end of episode 5, and actually episode 5 compared to the other episodes, pretty good in terms of mistakes. And that's not saying much because it had a lot. Now I brought back this series for 2 reasons. One, a lot of you were asking me to do it again, and the second reason is because the Power Rangers movie is coming out soon. I've been watching a lot of Power Rangers because I'm psyched up about it, so I decided to bring this series back. I only really stopped doing it because it's quite time consuming and not a lot of people were into it when I first started doing it, but if this one does well, I'll keep doing it. Also, I've got a Patreon, there's a link down there. There's not a lot of people on there right now because I've only just started it, but the more people that go there, the less time I've got to do actual work, and I can just stay at home watching Power Rangers and making more of this. The previous 4 episodes of this will be floating around somewhere. I'm sure you can find them if you look hard enough. Thanks for watching. Peace out.